Kicking off the last week in October, this is commercial-free CNN Student News. Welcome, I'm Carl Azus. Late last week, a doctor who'd treated Ebola patients in the West African nation of Guinea came down with the dangerous virus. But he was in New York City when he did. 33-year-old Craig Spencer became the fourth person diagnosed in the U.S. with Ebola. He's in isolation at New York's Bellevue Hospital. 3 people who'd been in contact with him are in quarantine. 3 U.S. states also have new quarantine rules for people returning from West Africa who've been exposed to Ebola patients. In Illinois, they have a 21-day home quarantine. In New York and New Jersey, they have a mandatory 21-day hospital quarantine. A doctor at the National Institutes of Health says the new rules could discourage healthcare workers from helping fight Ebola in West Africa. But he also says many Americans have lost faith in the federal government's efforts to stop the spread of Ebola.
President Obama hugging nurse Nina Pham to show Americans the Ebola scare is under control. Just minutes after her doctor did the same.
She is cured of Ebola. Let's get that clear, okay? That's for sure.
I'm on my way back to recovery, even as I reflect on how many others have not been so fortunate.
I think this also should be a pretty apt reminder that that we do have the best medical infrastructure in the world.
The White House, given the alarm over a new Ebola patient, a doctor in New York City, was quick to point out one of the CDC SWAT teams the president ordered was on the case.
I'm told that this SWAT team actually arrived in New York the same evening that this individual was a confirmed Ebola patient.
But on Capitol Hill, a National Nurses Union leader called the overall response dangerously inconsistent and inadequate.
No nation would ever contemplate sending soldiers into the battlefield without armor and weapons. Give us the tools we need. All we ask from President Obama and Congress is not one more infected nurse.
And Republicans continued to question why the president named a political aide, Ron Klain, to coordinate the effort.
Citing all of his medical, infectious disease, communicable disease, healthcare delivery background.
You know, one of the terrific things about the way the government works together is that experts come together all the time.
I'm going to take that answer as a he has none.
What is the largest stadium in the United Kingdom? If you think you know it, you know how it works. Just shout it out. Is it Twickenham Stadium, Millennium Stadium, Wimbledon Stadium, or Wembley Stadium? You've got 3 seconds. Go. With a capacity of 90,000 people, Wembley is the biggest stadium in Britain and the second biggest in Europe. That's your answer and that's your shout out.
Last play of the game between the Atlanta Falcons and Detroit Lions last night. Detroit kicks a field goal to win it by 1 point. The Lions had been down 21-0 at the half, but those who saw the extraordinary comeback in person were not in Michigan, they weren't in Georgia, they were at Wembley Stadium in the UK. And that's where the National Football League is testing an idea that could lead to an international football league.
Well, this is the 10th regular season NFL game to be held here at London's Wembley Stadium since 2007. The question is, does the NFL have the ability to put a franchise in London? They want to grow their international audience. They want to grow the merchandise sales around the world. They really see this international series as a test case for growing this global audience. They want to make billions and billions of dollars around the world. Can they put a franchise here? A lot of people are now saying it's more likely that there could be a franchise in London. We already have a team called the Jacksonville Jaguars who've agreed to play 4 seasons of 1 regular season game. They've already done that once. They'll play here for the 3rd match next month for this season. So the NFL expanding to 3 regular season games in London is a big deal for this NFL franchise possibility here in London. If not, well, they're already selling more than 80,000 tickets for each game. That's more than you'll get at most stadiums in the U.S. So that is a good sign that international fans love the NFL. Someday there could be a franchise.
A number of U.S. companies are trying to relocate their headquarters outside the U.S., and the U.S. government is trying to keep them from doing it. Why? Taxes. About 10% of the U.S. government's total revenue comes from corporate taxes. These are placed on the profits that U.S.-based businesses make. The federal government's corporate tax rate is 35%. The global average is lower at 25%. And in Ireland, which has one of the lowest tax rates, it's about 12.5%. So some U.S. companies are considering something called inversion.
Inversion. No, it's not a yoga pose. It's actually shorthand for a complicated and controversial tax maneuver used by some very large companies. Let's say we have a corporation in the U.S. It decides to buy a smaller one, in Ireland, for example. Is the combined company American or Irish? You'd probably say American, because that's where the buyer's from. But with an inversion, it's the other way around. The larger U.S. company takes the smaller company's citizenship. Now, why do that? Taxes. The U.S. has one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world. An inversion helps U.S. companies take advantage of their new home country's lower tax rate without actually moving operations. And there's another benefit. The company doesn't pay the U.S. rate on profits it makes overseas. That's key, because without an inversion, a U.S. company that brings its international profits back has to pay Uncle Sam. That's why so many U.S. companies decide to park international profits where they made them. American companies currently have $2 trillion stowed away in other countries. But that's a problem if a company wants to spend the cash here, whether it's for research and development, or to pay out shareholders, or even to throw a giant pizza party. Defenders of inversion say the tactic is perfectly legal, and it makes American companies more competitive. Critics, however, see it as a big, fat, juicy tax loophole for mega corporations.
Roll call requests can be made on our transcript page at cnnstudentnews.com. From Friday's transcript, we got a request from Beaumont, California. The Cougars of Mountain View Middle School are watching. We got a request from Charlevoix, Michigan. It's where we found the Raiders of Charlevoix Middle High School. And in Branchville, South Carolina, the buzz is all about the Yellow Jackets. Branchville Lockett High School is on today's roll. We told you earlier this month about a man who jumped the fence surrounding the White House and actually made it inside the building before he was caught. Another intruder tried the same thing last week, but he didn't get as far. Two of the reasons why: Jordan and Hurricane. They're employees of the Secret Service, they're considered police, they're aggressive and very highly trained, but they're not human. Think of a gold nugget. You probably picture something the size of a chicken nugget. This is more of a gold clod. It was unearthed this summer in the mountains of Butte County, California. The person who found it won't say where, and he or she wants to stay anonymous, just like the person who bought it. Now, what would you think was paid for a 6-pound gold chunk? The answer: about $400,000. This is why the gold rush started in the 1800s. Could it spark another one? The idea is a glittering prospect. The chunk was worth its weight in gold, but was paying that much for it foolish? In periodic table terms, that's up to AU. We're digging up pun gold on CNN Student News. I'm Carl Azus. Hope to see you Tuesday.